What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Screen Realm. Today is a big one for horror fiends. I'm going to be looking at some of my most anticipated horror films coming out through 2023. Now, there's a lot to get through, so let's go. Let's kick off with Infinity Pool in US cinemas January 27th. Infinity Pool is the latest film from writer-director Brandon Cronenberg, who previously made 2012's Antiviral and 2020's Possessor. I thought Possessor was a standout sci-fi horror film of 2020, incredibly potent and really brutal stuff. Brandon Cronenberg is of course son of acclaimed filmmaker David Cronenberg, so clearly tackling extreme dark cinema runs in the family. If you've seen Infinity Pool's first trailer, which I reacted to not too long ago, you'll have a taste of the insanity that Cronenberg has in store here, and with a couple of very strong leads to boot. Alexander Skarsgård and Scream Queen of the moment Maya Goth are among the cast of this horror sci-fi film, which follows a couple on the fictional island of La Tolka. James Skarsgård is behind a fatal accident, and as punishment, he's told that he is to be executed, unless he's willing to pay to have his double killed instead. This film was actually given an NC-17 rating in the US, which is pretty much the highest rating for a feature film, and it pushed Brandon Cronenberg and his team to appeal and to provide a new edit. They did so, managing to get it down to an R. Next up, Knock at the Cabin, hitting Australian cinemas on February 2nd and US cinemas on February 3rd. The 15th feature film from The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable and Split director M. Night Shyamalan is Knock at the Cabin, an apocalyptic psychological horror film with a cast that includes Dave Bautista, Jonathan Groff, and Rupert Grint, among others. As with a number of Shyamalan's films, there's a very intriguing concept here. A family of three on vacation at a remote cabin are held hostage by four strangers and are told to make a devastating choice. One member in their family must die in order to prevent the apocalypse. So yes, a very intriguing concept, although as usual it's likely how the answers or the twists play out that will determine whether or not this is successful. Now, this is based on 2018 novel The Cabin at the End of the World by author Paul G. Tremblay, which I haven't read, but if you've read it, there's a good chance you know a good amount of what's coming up in terms of twists perhaps, but perhaps Shyamalan has some of his own twists in store, which is kind of risky, I guess, considering his mixed bag of films, but I'm excited to see how this one plays out. Evil Dead Rise, opening in Australian cinemas on April 20th and US cinemas on April 21st. The Evil Dead franchise is getting its next chapter with Evil Dead Rise, the fifth film in this horror franchise following Sam Raimi's 1981 breakout hit The Evil Dead, his 1987 follow-up Evil Dead 2, his 1992 threequel Army of Darkness, and the 2013 reboot/loose continuation Evil Dead, directed by Don't Breathe Helmer Fede Alvarez. Over the years, I'd say that Evil Dead fans have been somewhat split over that fourth installment, but I'm a fan. I thought it paid respect to the overall original concept while firmly planting its own bloody handprint on the series. Shot in New Zealand, Evil Dead Rise is directed and written by Irish filmmaker Lee Cronin, who was handpicked by producer Sam Raimi. This is the second feature film from Cronin. He previously directed the 2019 supernatural horror film The Hole in the Ground, a small Irish film that managed to gather some strong distribution and receive mostly positive critical reviews. Cronin showed plenty of promise with his debut, so it'll be interesting to see what he delivers here. The plot of Evil Dead Rise will follow a road-weary Beth, played by Aussie actress Lily Sullivan, as she hits LA to visit her older sister Ellie, a single mother of three, played by another Aussie actress Alyssa Sutherland. Their reunion is cut short by a certain book discovered in the bowels of Ellie's building. Flesh-possessing demons and a primal battle for survival ensues. The Last Voyage of the Demeter in US cinemas on August 11th. Another Dracula-related film here. The Last Voyage of the Demeter is based on one chapter from Bram Stoker's 1897 novel Dracula, and it's going to be telling the story of what goes down aboard a merchant ship named the Demeter, carrying 50 wooden crates from Carpathia to London. No prizes for guessing that things don't exactly go swimmingly for the crew on board. As the official synopsis from Amblin reads, strange events befall the doomed crew as they attempt to survive the ocean voyage, stalked each night by a merciless presence on board the ship. When the Demeter finally arrives off the shores of England, it is a charred, derelict wreck. There is no trace of the crew. Directing this one is Norwegian filmmaker Andre Overdal, whose previous films include The Autopsy of Jane Doe, I like that one, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and Troll Hunter. As for the cast, it includes Corey Hawkins in The Heights, Straight Outta Compton, Aisling Franciosi, Game of Thrones, The Nightingale, as well as Liam Cunningham, also from Game of Thrones and Clash of the Titans. The Exorcist in US cinemas October 13. I am not really outraged about news of reboots, sequels, prequels and all that. Sure, original ideas are always nice, but there have been remakes and sequels that I've absolutely loved, and I definitely don't buy into they're ruining the original argument. If a new attempt sucks, the original is always still there for you to enjoy. I don't know, I'm usually more about the I don't know until I see it. Which brings us to this new Exorcist, both a reboot and a continuation of the horror franchise that kicked off with William Friedkin's 1973 classic. Directing this new Exorcist is David Gordon Green, who was at the helm of the recent Halloween trilogy. I only really dug Green's first Halloween film, but he's a solid director nevertheless in my opinion. Apart from Halloween, he's dabbled in strong comedy such as Pineapple Express and emotional drama as well, such as Stronger. This new Exorcist, the sixth installment in the overall franchise, will have Hamilton and Glass Onion star Leslie Odom Jr. playing a father to a 12-year-old girl who has become possessed by a demonic entity. A big connection to the original here, Ellen Burstyn is also back reprising her role as Chris McNeil. Jason Blum is producer on this film, which Universal Pictures and streaming service Peacock purchased the rights to back in 2021. That deal, by the way, was for a trilogy, so expect 2 follow-ups if this one does well. Salem's Lot, no exact release date as yet for its planned 2023 release. Stephen King's second published novel from 1975 is getting its first big screen film adaptation, although there have been of course a few small screen adaptations before, including a memorable 2-part miniseries from 1979. James Wan is producing this adaptation with direction and screenplay coming from Gary Doberman, director of Annabelle Comes Home and screenwriter on the It films. In case you don't know the plot, Stephen King's novel tells the story of a writer named Ben Mears who returns to the town of Jerusalem's Lot, or Salem's Lot for short, where he lived for a period of his childhood, only to discover that the residents are now becoming vampires. A few vampire movies this year. The cast includes Lewis Pullman from Top Gun Maverick as Ben Mears, Mackenzie Lee, Billy Lynn's long half-time walker as Susan Norton, and Alfred Woodard, Luke Cage, and C as Dr. Cody, among others. Now, this new Salem's Lot had already been completed and had even been given a US rating of R for bloody violence and language. It was originally scheduled to hit cinemas back in September 2022, but COVID-related delays pushed that release back to April 21st, 2023, until Warner Brothers decided to take it off that date and replace it with Evil Dead Rise instead. So as of right now, there's still no date, although a 2023 release is still expected. With all these delays, make of that what you will. I'm holding out hope for a good one here. Cuckoo, no exact release date as yet for its 2023 release either. Not a whole lot to go on with this one, although it's been gathering a bit of buzz online. The film will be led by Euphoria star Hunter Schafer, who's gathered quite the fan base with her role in that HBO series and is making her feature debut with this one. The cast also includes Dan Stevens, The Guest, Legion, and Jessica Henwick, Glass Onion, The Matrix Resurrections. This is the second feature film from German filmmaker Tilman Singer, who previously made 2018 German horror film Luz. Haven't seen that one myself, but I have heard some pretty intriguing things about that one and I've got it on the list. I couldn't spot a current official synopsis as yet, although I did find one that was going around a while ago. It reads, chased by a mysterious woman, 17-year-old Gretchen, played by Schafer, who just moved in with her family to an alpine resort after her mother's death, must uncover a conspiracy to save herself and her sister. That about does for me for some of the 2023 horror films that I'm most interested in, but there are a number of other ones that are coming out that I thought I would quickly mention. There's also Scream 6, which will find the latest Ghostface out of Woodsboro and in New York City this time around, chasing down those that survived that 5th chapter. The directors of 2022's Scream, Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett, will be returning at the helm. A number of cast members also return, including Courtney Cox, Hayden Panettiere, and Jenna Ortega, among others. Interestingly, Neve Campbell apparently won't be back after being unhappy with the amount of money she would be receiving for this film, so this will be the first Scream film without Sidney Prescott. There's also Insidious: Fear the Dark, a 5th chapter in that franchise. This time we'll catch up with the Lambert 10 years after the last installment, and we'll see young Dalton Lambert entering college. Patrick Wilson and Rose Byrne are also in the cast, and this will actually be the feature directorial debut for actor Patrick Wilson, who's been with the franchise since the beginning. Hope it's a return to form for the franchise. I didn't really dig Chapter 3 or The Last Key. This one's a bit more enticing because of the proudly silly concept, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, a horror reimagining that makes the classic bear character a bloodthirsty killer. The plot of this slasher has Winnie's human buddy, Christopher Robin, leaving to go to college, and well, Pooh and his buddies, including Piglet, are straight up pissed. Bloody mayhem ensues. If you still haven't, check out the bloody trailer for that one, it looks pretty nuts. Saw X, aka Saw 10. Yes, the torture porn franchise is still going, getting a 10th chapter that will be released in October this year. The next entry is being directed by Kevin Grutert, who directed Saw 6 and Saw 3D. His credits also include films Jezebel and Visions. Not much known about the plot, although it is known that Tobin Bell is once again somehow back as John Kramer, aka Jigsaw, and there have been reports that Shawnee Smith, who appeared in a number of Saw films, was in talks to reprise her role as Amanda. I'm not 100% if she's actually on board since the IMDb page doesn't have her listed, but we'll see. The Nun 2 is heading to cinemas in September. Now, I wasn't really a fan of The Nun, but the film was a big financial success. In fact, with a $365 million draw, it's the highest grossing film in the entire Conjuring universe thus far. So The Nun 2 is on the way. The first film star, Taissa Farmiga, is returning as Sister Irene, who is again facing Valak the Demon Nun in France, 1956. The cast includes Storm Reid, Euphoria, A Wrinkle in Time, and the film is directed by Michael Chavez, who was at the helm of previous Conjuring films, The Curse of La Llorona and The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. That's it. Hope you enjoyed the rundown of some of 2023's big horror films. Any standouts that you're really looking forward to? Any that I perhaps didn't even mention? Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, be sure to subscribe if you still have not subscribed. Catch you next time.